The sky above Geneva turned dark at exactly 3 in the afternoon. People stopped walking and looked up. Cars slowed down on the highways. Children playing in parks pointed at the massive shape that blocked out the sun. The object was huge, bigger than any building humanity had ever constructed. It hung in the air without making a sound, without any visible means of staying up. The ship looked like it was made of crystal or glass, but it bent light in ways that hurt to look at for too long. Colors shifted across its surface like oil on water. The world held its breath. Jake Morrison was in Colorado Springs when the alert came through. He was a captain in the United States Space Force, which until that moment had been mostly about satellites and tracking space debris. His phone exploded with messages. His commander called him directly. Within 20 minutes, he was on a military transport heading to a secure location. He was not alone. The plane carried scientists, generals, and people Jake had never met but whose faces he recognized from classified briefings. Nobody spoke much during the flight. They all watched the news feeds on their tablets, watching the same footage over and over. The alien ship just floating there, waiting. The bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains was built during the Cold War to survive nuclear attacks. Now it housed representatives from every major nation on Earth. Jake found himself sitting next to Lisa Chang, a Navy commander he had worked with on a joint space monitoring project. She looked as nervous as he felt. Across the table sat Derek Hughes, an Air Force major with more combat experience than both of them combined. The room filled quickly. Translators rushed to set up equipment. Security personnel checked and rechecked everything. President Helen Rodriguez arrived last, flanked by advisors and military leaders. She had been a federal prosecutor before entering politics. Known for her ability to find holes in any argument, people said she could spot a lie from a mile away. The aliens made contact at 8 in the evening Geneva time. Every screen in the bunker showed the same image. A column of light appeared in the center of the room, or at least that was how it seemed on the video feed. The light spoke, and somehow everyone heard it in their own language. The being called itself Vexthera, and said it represented something called the Galactic Protection Consortium. Its voice was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It simply was. Vexthera explained that Earth had been observed for some time. Humanity had reached a level of development that made it eligible for protection. The galaxy was dangerous, the alien said. There were threats out there that could wipe out entire civilizations. The Devourers consumed everything in their path. The Void Collective turned living beings into machines. The Entropy Swarm broke down matter itself. Pirates raided developing worlds for slaves and resources. Cosmic events could sterilize a planet without warning. The consortium offered safety from all of this. Earth would be protected, guided, helped to advance safely under the shield of older and wiser civilizations. The presentation lasted an hour. Vexthera showed images of destroyed worlds, species that had been wiped out, civilizations that had fallen to the darkness between stars. The message was clear and terrifying. The universe wanted to kill humanity, and only the consortium could stop it. When the alien finished, there was silence in the bunker. People looked at each other uncertainly. Some faces showed relief. Others showed suspicion. A few showed fear. President Rodriguez stood up. She smoothed her jacket and walked closer to the screen showing the alien ambassador. She tilted her head slightly, the way she used to do in courtrooms when she was about to ask a question that would destroy a witness's testimony. Her voice was calm and clear. Protection from what exactly? The question hung in the air. Jake Morrison felt something shift in the room. It was such a simple question, so obvious, yet nobody had asked it yet. Everyone had been focused on the how and the why and the cost. Nobody had asked about the actual threat. Vexthera seemed to pause. The column of light flickered for just a moment. When it spoke again, there was something different in its tone, though Jake could not quite identify what. As I mentioned, there are numerous threats, the alien said. The Devourers are biological horrors that consume all organic matter. The Void Collective are post-biological entities that seek to convert all life into digital consciousness. The Entropy Swarm exists to accelerate the heat death of the universe. There are also smaller threats like pirate fleets, rogue AI systems, and naturally occurring phenomena such as gamma-ray bursts. Rodriguez nodded slowly. She glanced at her advisors, then back at the screen. Jake watched her face carefully. He had studied her speeches and interviews while preparing for this assignment. He knew that look. She had spotted something. "I understand the threats exist," Rodriguez said. "My question is more specific. Who protects us from you?" The bunker went completely silent. Even the quiet hum of electronics seemed to stop. Jake felt his heart pounding. Lisa Chang beside him had stopped breathing. Derek Hughes across the table had his hand halfway to his sidearm, an instinctive reaction to perceived threat. Vexthera did not respond immediately. The light column pulsed with colors that had not appeared before. When it finally spoke, the words came more carefully. "The consortium has protected over 3,000 species for millennia," it said. "We have no hostile intent toward developing civilizations. Our purpose is preservation and guidance." "That is not an answer to my question," Rodriguez said. Her prosecutor voice was fully engaged now. "You appear in our sky without warning or permission. You tell us our world is in danger. You offer protection that we did not ask for. You have weapons that could presumably destroy us if we refuse. So I ask again, who protects us from you? What stops you from being the threat you claim to protect us from?" The alien was quiet for a long moment. Around the bunker, people began to whisper. Jake heard the word war more than once. He heard someone mention nuclear weapons. He heard fear in voices that were supposed to be calm and professional. "You misunderstand our intentions," Vexthara finally said. "We gain nothing from harming you. The consortium exists to maintain order and safety in the galaxy. So does every empire that ever existed," Rodriguez replied. "They all claim to bring order and peace. They all had good intentions. They all ended up oppressing someone. I need you to understand something about humanity. We have a long history of people offering us protection that turned out to be control. We have learned to ask hard questions. So before we discuss any agreement, I need to know what happens if we say no. I need to know what enforcement mechanisms exist in your protection system. I need to know who watches the watchers." The meeting did not end well. Vexthara provided more information, but Rodriguez was not satisfied. Neither were the other world leaders once they understood what she was driving at. The consortium ambassador agreed to provide detailed information about their protection protocols and to answer all questions thoroughly. A second meeting was scheduled for 3 days later. When the alien presence disappeared from the screens, the bunker erupted in conversation. Jake Morrison sat quietly, processing what he had just witnessed. Humanity had just met aliens for the first time, and instead of being awed or frightened into submission, their leader had immediately started interrogating them like hostile witnesses. He found himself smiling. That was the most human response possible. The next 3 days changed everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. President Rodriguez assembled a team of people whose job was to ask uncomfortable questions and find uncomfortable answers. She put Colonel Peter Grant in charge. Grant had spent 20 years in military intelligence and had a reputation for being impossible to fool. He brought in Dr. Amy Chen from Berkeley, a woman who studied how different cultures thought and communicated. He also recruited Kyle Foster, a naval intelligence officer who specialized in finding patterns in data that other people missed. The three of them worked around the clock. The consortium had provided thousands of documents about their protection system, their history, and their protocols. The information was detailed and seemed transparent. That was what worried Grant. Nobody gave away that much information unless they were trying to hide something in plain sight. He had seen this tactic before in criminal investigations. Bury the truth under mountains of facts. Amy Chen focused on the cultural aspects. She read through case studies of the 3,000 species that the consortium protected. She looked at how those civilizations had developed before and after accepting protection. The pattern she found disturbed her. Every protected species followed the same trajectory. In the first generation after accepting protection, they experienced peace and prosperity. Technology advanced with consortium help. Standards of living improved. Everything seemed wonderful. But then something changed. By the third generation, innovation slowed. By the fifth generation, it nearly stopped. Protected species became comfortable, complacent, dependent. They stopped pushing boundaries because the consortium told them the boundaries were dangerous. Kyle Foster took a different approach. He analyzed the military and economic data. The protection agreement required species to contribute resources to the consortium defense forces. It seemed reasonable at first. If the consortium was protecting you, you should help pay for that protection. But Foster noticed something odd. The resource contributions increased over time. They started small, barely noticeable, but within a few generations they became substantial. Protected species ended up giving away significant portions of their production to maintain the very system that supposedly protected them. It reminded Foster of protection rackets run by organized crime. Pay us to keep you safe from threats that may or may not actually exist. The real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. One of the consortium technicians who had come to Earth to help set up communication systems approached Jake Morrison privately. The alien was young by its species standards and seemed nervous. It called itself Zeph and said it had something to show Morrison, but could not do it officially. Morrison took a risk and met with Zeph in an empty hangar at the military base. The alien handed him a data storage device and told him to look at the restricted files. When Morrison asked why Zeph was doing this, the alien said something that stuck with him. Some of us remember what it was like before the consortium, before we were safe. We were more alive then. Morrison gave the data device to Kyle Foster. What Foster found in those files changed everything. They contained records of species that had refused consortium protection. Morrison expected to find death tolls and destruction. Instead, he found something completely different. The species that said no continued developing on their own. Some struggled, that was true. Some faced threats and had to fight. But they survived. More than that, they thrived. Their technology advanced faster than protected species. Their cultures remained vibrant and diverse. And the critical detail that Foster highlighted in his report was this: none of them had been destroyed by the Devourers or the Void Collective or any other cosmic threat. They simply continued to exist, independent and strong. Peter Grant brought all this information to President Rodriguez in a secure briefing. Amy Chen presented her cultural analysis. Kyle Foster showed the economic data and the leaked files. Morrison added his observations from speaking with Zeph. The conclusion was unavoidable and shocking. The consortium was not protecting Earth from external threats. The consortium was protecting itself from competition. Rodriguez sat quietly for a long time after the briefing ended. She asked questions, poked holes in the analysis, played devil's advocate, but the data held up under scrutiny. Finally, she asked the question that everyone was thinking. If we refuse their protection, will they attack us? Grant shook his head. I don't think so. If they were going to attack species that refused, we would have found evidence of it in the leaked files. What I think happens is more subtle. They isolate the species diplomatically. They make trade difficult. They spread information through the galaxy that makes the independent species look dangerous or unstable. They use soft power instead of hard power. So we would be on our own, Rodriguez said. Truly on our own, facing a universe that actually is dangerous, without any allies or support structure. Yes, Amy Chen said, but we would be free to develop at our own pace, free to make our own mistakes and learn from them, free to become whatever we are capable of becoming. The debate that followed consumed the entire planet. The consortium had given Earth 60 days to make a decision. Every government, every news organization, every person with access to social media had an opinion. The arguments raged back and forth. Some people wanted the safety that protection offered. Why risk everything when a powerful ally was offering help? Others refused to surrender Earth's independence for any reason. Humanity had not climbed to the top of its own world just to bow to aliens, no matter how advanced they were. General Marcus Webb became the most vocal advocate for refusal. He was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and had fought in 3 wars during his career. He gave a speech that was broadcast around the world. We did not become the dominant species on Earth by hiding from predators, he said. We became dominant by facing challenges head-on, by adapting, by refusing to give up. Every time someone told us something was impossible or too dangerous, we proved them wrong. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We flew through the sky in metal tubes. We split the atom. We went to the moon. We did all of this while fighting each other, while making mistakes, while learning the hard way. Now aliens show up and tell us the universe is too dangerous for us to explore alone. I say they are wrong. I say we are more dangerous than they think. Not everyone agreed with Webb. Prime Minister Richard Clarke of the United Kingdom represented the cautious perspective. He pointed out that Earth had no experience with interstellar warfare or cosmic-level threats. Humanity was like a child playing with matches, he argued. The consortium was offering to teach them about fire safely. Refusing that offer out of pride could lead to extinction. But it was Senator Nicole Parker who found the middle ground that many people could accept. Parker had been an astronaut before entering politics. She had spent 6 months on the International Space Station and had seen Earth from orbit. She understood both the fragility and the resilience of humanity. In her speech to the United Nations General Assembly, she framed the decision in terms that resonated across cultures and nations. Our entire history is about facing the unknown, she said. Every generation of humans has stood at the edge of what they knew and decided to step forward anyway. We sailed across oceans without maps. We explored continents without knowing what we would find. We launched ourselves into space on controlled explosions. Every single time people said it was too dangerous, too risky, too likely to end in disaster. And every single time, we did it anyway. Not because we were stupid or suicidal, but because we understood something fundamental about human nature. We grow through challenge. We advance through adversity. We become stronger by facing our fears rather than hiding from them. The consortium is offering us a chance to stay safe and comfortable. But safety and comfort have never been what made humanity great. What made us great was our willingness to bet on ourselves, even when the odds were bad, especially when the odds were bad. The speech was watched by billions of people. It captured something that crossed political and cultural boundaries. Humanity was being offered a choice between safety and freedom, between comfort and growth, between being protected and being independent. When Parker finished speaking, she said something that would be quoted for generations. We have always bet on ourselves. Why stop now? While the public debate raged across every continent, Lisa Chang led a small team of scientists and engineers in a secret project. They had been given access to the leaked consortium data, and what they found was both exciting and terrifying. The aliens had been using the same basic technology for thousands of years. They had perfected their systems and then stopped innovating. Meanwhile, human scientists had been theorizing about faster-than-light travel for decades. Some of their theoretical models were actually more efficient than what the consortium was using. The realization hit Chang like a physical blow. Humanity was not as far behind as everyone thought. She brought her findings to Dr. Henry Park, a physicist who had been studying the consortium ships from a distance. Park was a quiet man who preferred equations to people, but his mind was brilliant. When Chang showed him the data, he spent 3 days locked in his lab without sleeping. When he emerged, he had something extraordinary. The math worked. Humans could build a faster-than-light drive without consortium help. It would take time and resources, but it was possible. More than possible, it was probable. The information was classified at the highest level. Only a handful of people knew that humanity was on the verge of cracking FTL travel independently. President Rodriguez kept the secret carefully. It would be a bargaining chip if they needed it, or a foundation for independence if they chose that path. But the knowledge changed the equation. Earth was not a helpless child needing protection. Earth was a teenager about to discover its own strength. The 60th day arrived. Representatives from every nation gathered at the United Nations building in New York. The consortium ship still floated above Geneva, silent and waiting. Vexthara appeared on screens around the world, ready to receive Earth's answer. The alien ambassador seemed confident. In 3,000 years, no species had ever refused protection once they understood the dangers of the galaxy. Why would humans be different? President Rodriguez stood at the podium. Behind her stood leaders from China, Russia, India, Brazil, the European Union, and dozens of other nations. They had debated for weeks. They had argued and compromised. But in the end, they had reached a consensus. Rodriguez looked directly at the camera, knowing that Vexthara was watching, knowing that the entire galaxy might be watching through whatever networks the consortium used. On behalf of humanity and the planet Earth, Rodriguez said, "We thank you for your generous offer of protection. We acknowledge the dangers you have described. We understand the threats that exist in the universe. We appreciate the time and effort you have taken to explain your system and answer our questions. However, after careful consideration, humanity must decline your offer. We choose to face the universe on our own terms. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Vexthara's light column flickered with colors that had not appeared before. When the alien finally spoke, there was something new in its voice. Surprise perhaps, or anger, or both. You do not understand what you are refusing, Vexthara said. There are threats beyond your comprehension. Forces that have destroyed civilizations far older and more advanced than yours. You are children playing at the edge of an abyss. Without our protection, you will fall into the darkness. Jake Morrison stepped forward. He was not supposed to speak, but he could not help himself. Maybe we will fall, he said. But it will be our choice. Our risk. Our mistake to make. You have been very generous with your warnings about external threats, but you have been less honest about the cost of your protection. We have seen what happens to species that accept your help. They become dependent. They stop growing. They stop being themselves. We would rather face the darkness and remain human than hide behind your shields and become something less. Vexthara turned its attention to Morrison. You speak with confidence for someone who has never left his own solar system. You have no experience with the realities of interstellar existence. Pride is not a shield against the devourers. You are right, Lisa Chang said, joining Morrison at the front. We have no experience. We are ignorant of the dangers. We will make mistakes, but we will learn from those mistakes. We will adapt. We will grow. That is what humans do. You have kept the galaxy safe and stable for thousands of years. But stable is another word for stagnant. You have created a system where everyone is protected, but no one is truly free. We choose freedom. The alien ambassador was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was cold. You are making a grave mistake. When the darkness finds you, and it will find you, do not come begging for our protection. The consortium does not give second chances to those who refuse our help. We understand, Rodriguez said, and we will not come begging. If we survive, we will stand on our own. If we fail, it will be our own failure. That is the choice we have made. Vexthara's form began to fade. Then you are alone. The consortium will mark Earth as an independent system. No protected species will be allowed to trade with you or offer you assistance. You will have no allies, no support, no help when the threats come. And they will come. The galaxy remembers those who refuse protection. You will learn why civilizations choose safety over pride. The transmission ended. The screens went dark. Around the world, people held their breath. They had done it. Humanity had refused the offer. They were alone in the universe, facing unknown dangers with no allies and no safety net. Some people celebrated, others prayed. Many simply waited to see what would happen next. The consortium ship left Earth orbit the following day. It accelerated away faster than any human-made object could move and disappeared into the darkness of space. Governments immediately went into emergency mode. Every resource was redirected toward a single goal, preparing humanity for what was coming. The Terran Defense Initiative was born in those first frantic weeks. General Marcus Webb took command of the military aspect. His job was to figure out how to defend Earth and eventually expand into space with credible force. Lisa Chang and Henry Park were given unlimited funding to develop the FTL drive. They assembled a team of the brightest minds from every nation. The project was called Breakthrough, and it consumed everyone involved. They worked 20-hour days, pushing the boundaries of physics and engineering. The math said it was possible. Now they had to make theory into reality. Amy Chen took on a different role. She began trying to make contact with other species in the galaxy. The consortium said no one would trade with Earth or help them. But Chen suspected there were others out there who might be dissatisfied with consortium rule. There had to be rebels, dissidents, or species that had also refused protection. Finding them would not be easy, but it was necessary. Humanity needed information about the galaxy. They needed to understand what they were facing. Colonel Peter Grant established an intelligence network focused on gathering information about the threats Vexthara had mentioned. The Devourers, the Void Collective, the Entropy Swarm, and others. If these dangers were real, humanity needed to understand them. If they were exaggerated or fabricated, humanity needed to know that too. Grant recruited agents and analysts from every intelligence agency on Earth. Their mission was simple: learn everything possible about the galaxy beyond Earth. President Rodriguez addressed the world 1 week after the consortium departed. Her message was broadcast in every language, shown on every screen, heard by every person who could access media. She stood in the same spot where she had delivered humanity's refusal, but now she spoke not to aliens but to her own species. "We have chosen a difficult path," she said. "We will face challenges that we cannot yet imagine. We will make mistakes because we are learning as we go. Some of us may not survive what is coming, but we will face it together, as one species, as one world, as one humanity. We have been offered safety in exchange for freedom. We have chosen freedom. Now we must prove that choice was not made in ignorance or pride, but in strength and wisdom. We must show the galaxy that humanity deserves its independence. We must become strong enough to stand alone." 5 years passed in a blur of frantic activity. Humanity transformed itself in ways that previous generations would have found impossible to imagine. The nations of Earth were still separate, still had their own governments and cultures, but they worked together with a unity that had never existed before. The threat of cosmic danger had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not. People stopped thinking of themselves as American or Chinese or Nigerian first. They were human first and everything else second. The breakthrough came in year 3. Henry Park and Lisa Chang stood in a laboratory in Nevada and watched their prototype FTL drive activate for the first time. The test vehicle was small, barely larger than a car, and it was unmanned. It disappeared in a flash of twisted light and reappeared 3 seconds later, exactly 1 light year away from where it started. The data came back clean. The drive worked. Humanity could now travel faster than light. Building a full-size ship took another 2 years. The vessel was named the TDS Endeavour, and it represented everything humanity could accomplish when focused on a single goal. It was not the biggest ship or the most heavily armed, but it was fast and it was smart. The design incorporated ideas from a dozen different nations. The hull used materials developed in Japan. The power systems were based on fusion reactors built in France. The weapons were a combination of American railguns and Russian plasma cannons. The computer systems came from India. It was a human ship in the truest sense. Jake Morrison was given command. He had been promoted to captain and had spent the last 5 years training for this moment. His crew was carefully selected from volunteers around the world. Lisa Chang served as his second-in-command and chief science officer. Kyle Foster took the tactical station. They had 30 crew members total, each one an expert in their field, each one willing to risk their life for humanity's first journey beyond the solar system. The mission was simple in concept but terrifying in execution. Travel to Proxima Centauri, the nearest star system to Earth, and see what was there. Gather data. Learn about interstellar space. Prove that humanity could explore the galaxy without consortium help. And most importantly, return home safely. The launch day was watched by billions. The Endeavour lifted off from a platform in the Pacific Ocean and accelerated away from Earth. Morrison sat in the command chair and felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Every person who had ever dreamed of the stars was watching through his eyes. Every person who had voted to refuse consortium protection was trusting him to prove that decision was right. He took a deep breath and gave the order to engage the FTL drive. The sensation was unlike anything he had expected. The stars stretched and twisted. Colors appeared that had no names. Time felt wrong, too fast and too slow at the same time. Then it was over. The screens showed a different star field. They had crossed 4 light years in less than 10 minutes. The crew cheered. Lisa Chang checked the readings 3 times to make sure they were real. Kyle Foster marked their position and confirmed they were in the Proxima Centauri system. Humanity had left home. The system had 3 planets. 2 were lifeless rocks, but the third was interesting. It was slightly larger than Earth and orbited in the habitable zone. Early scans showed no signs of life, but there were structures in orbit. Artificial structures. Someone had been here, though the installations looked old and abandoned. Morrison ordered the ship to approach carefully. That was when they detected the other vessel. It was not human and it was not consortium. The ship was organic, pulsing with a sickly bioluminescent glow. It looked like something that should be deep underwater, not floating in space. The moment their sensors locked onto it, the alien ship changed course and headed directly toward them. "That is a Devourer scout ship," Lisa Chang said, her voice tight with fear. She had studied every piece of information humanity had gathered about galactic threats. Consortium files say they are extremely hostile and attack without warning. Morrison felt his pulse quicken but kept his voice calm. Battle stations. All weapons ready. Shields to maximum. The Devourer ship was faster than it looked. It closed the distance in seconds and opened fire without any attempt at communication. The weapons were unlike anything in the Consortium database. They fired pulses of energy that seemed to disintegrate matter on contact. The Endeavor's shields held, but the power readings dropped fast. One direct hit to the hull and they would be done. Kyle Foster was analyzing the attack patterns from his tactical station. His mind worked fast, processing information that would take others minutes to understand. He saw something the others missed. Captain, it is using Consortium tactics. It knows how protected species fight. It has fought them before and won. It expects us to withdraw and call for help. Morrison understood immediately. The Devourer had fought Consortium ships many times. It knew their defensive patterns, their cautious approach, their tendency to retreat and regroup. But the Endeavor was not a Consortium ship. It was human, and humans fought differently. Foster, what would the Consortium never do? Morrison asked. Foster smiled grimly. Charge directly at a superior enemy. Then that is exactly what we do, Morrison said. All power to forward shields. All weapons target the center of that thing. Full speed ahead. The crew looked at him like he had lost his mind. Lisa Chang opened her mouth to object, then closed it. She understood. They could not outrun this thing, and they could not defeat it in a conventional battle. So they would do something unconventional, something crazy, something human. The Endeavor accelerated directly toward the Devourer ship at a significant fraction of light speed. The alien vessel fired everything it had, but the human ship's shields held just long enough. Morrison gave the order, and every weapon on the Endeavor fired at once. Railguns launched projectiles at incredible velocity. Plasma cannons released focused streams of superheated gas. Missiles streaked through space, trailing fire. The Devourer ship tried to evade, but it was not fast enough. The barrage hit its center mass at the same moment the Endeavor rammed it with shields extended like a battering ram. The impact was catastrophic for both vessels. The Devourer ship crumpled and exploded. The Endeavor spun wildly, shields failing, hull breached in 3 places. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Morrison pulled himself out of his seat. His head was bleeding from where he had hit the console. Around him, crew members were doing the same. Damage report, he said. Hull breach is sealed, someone called out. Life support functional. FTL drive damaged but repairable. Weapons offline. We are alive, Captain. Lisa Chang was checking the sensors. The Devourer ship is destroyed. We won. The news spread through the ship like wildfire. They had faced one of the galaxy's great threats and survived. More than survived, they had won. The crew began to cheer despite their injuries and the damaged ship around them. They had proven something important. Humanity could defend itself. The repairs took 3 days. The crew worked around the clock, fixing what they could and improvising solutions for what they could not. Morrison sent a message back to Earth describing what had happened. The transmission would take years to arrive at light speed, but it was important to document everything. Future human ships would learn from this encounter. When the Endeavor finally limped back into Earth orbit, they were greeted as heroes. The battle had been monitored from Earth through the quantum communication system that Henry Park had developed. Everyone had watched as the small human ship charged a superior enemy and won through sheer audacity and aggression. General Marcus Webb said it best in his address to the returning crew. You did not fight like the Consortium fights. You fought like humans. Fast, aggressive, unpredictable, and absolutely refusing to accept defeat. You have shown the galaxy what we are capable of. But the victory had consequences that no one had anticipated. The battle had been watched by others besides Earth. The Consortium monitored the Proxima Centauri system through automated sensors. They saw what happened. They saw a human ship defeat a Devourer using tactics no protected species would ever attempt. The information spread through the galactic network faster than anyone expected. The news of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy in ways that Earth did not expect. 6 months after the Endeavor returned, long-range sensors detected multiple ships approaching the solar system. The defense forces went on high alert. General Marcus Webb prepared for the worst. But the ships were not Consortium vessels, and they were not hostile. They were refugees. The first ship contained a species called the Kethmar. They were tall beings with 4 arms and skin that changed color based on their emotions. Their leader asked for permission to speak with Earth's government. Lisa Chang, who had been promoted to commander of the second human starship, went out to meet them. The conversation that followed changed everything. The Kethmar leader explained that they had been under consortium protection for 8 generations. 2 months ago, a devourer fleet attacked their home world. The consortium fleet arrived to defend them, but something was wrong. The consortium ships fought half-heartedly. They allowed entire cities to be destroyed before intervening. They let millions die before finally driving the devourers away. The Kethmar government realized the truth. The consortium had let them suffer to remind them why they needed protection. It was a lesson written in blood. We fled, the Kethmar leader said. 3 ships full of those who could not accept living under such a system anymore. We heard about Earth. We heard that humans refused protection and survived. We heard that you defeated a devourer ship alone. We came here hoping you would help us, or at least show us how to help ourselves. Commander Chang brought them to Earth. President Rodriguez, now in her 2nd term, met with the refugees personally. The story they told was exactly what Amy Chen had predicted years ago. The consortium did not protect species from threats. They used threats to maintain control. Sometimes they even allowed those threats to succeed partially, just to keep protected species afraid and dependent. More ships arrived over the following months. Different species, all with similar stories. Some had refused consortium protection and were struggling alone. Others had fled from protection after seeing its true cost. They came to Earth because it was the only place in the known galaxy that offered an alternative. Humanity had proven that independence was possible. Nicole Parker, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat, worked with these refugees to create something new. It started as informal agreements, technology sharing, mutual defense pacts, cultural exchanges. But it grew into something larger. They called it the Free Worlds Alliance. The core principle was simple: independent species helping each other without demanding surrender of sovereignty or freedom. No protected species, no client states, just allies working together as equals. The Kethmar contributed their expertise in energy systems. Their understanding of power generation was more advanced than human technology. The Vorlax, a species that looked like walking plants, were masters of biotechnology and medical science. The Zenthi were crystalline beings whose mathematical abilities exceeded the best human computers. Together they began to share knowledge and advance faster than any of them could have alone. Amy Chen studied this carefully. She realized that the consortium had made a critical mistake. They kept species separate and dependent. They controlled information flow and limited contact between protected civilizations. This prevented rebellion, but it also prevented cooperation. The Free Worlds Alliance did the opposite. They shared everything, learned from each other, and grew stronger through diversity. Within 3 years, Alliance technology matched the consortium in most areas and exceeded it in some. The consortium noticed. Vexithara returned to Earth for the first time since humanity refused protection. The alien ambassador appeared on screens in the UN building, where representatives from all Alliance species had gathered. Its light column pulsed with colors that suggested anger or frustration. "You are disrupting the galactic order," Vexithara said. "Protected species are abandoning our care because of dangerous ideas you have spread. You are encouraging rebellion and chaos. You are putting lives at risk." Rodriguez stood to respond, but it was Amy Chen who spoke first. "We are not spreading ideas. We are offering choices. Every species that has joined the Alliance made that decision freely. Nobody forced them. Nobody threatened them. They saw what we built and decided they wanted to be part of it. You do not understand the dangers," Vexithara insisted. "These species are not ready for independence. They will be destroyed by threats they cannot handle. Their blood will be on your hands." General Marcus Webb, now promoted to Fleet Admiral of the Combined Alliance Defense Forces, stepped forward. "Then why has not a single Alliance species been destroyed yet? We have fought off pirate raids. We have dealt with 3 devourer incursions. We have survived everything the dangerous galaxy has thrown at us, and we did it without your help." The alien was quiet for a moment. When it spoke again, its voice was different. There was something that might have been fear underneath the anger. "You are changing things that have been stable for thousands of years. The consortium has maintained peace and order across the galaxy. What you are building will lead to war." "No," Rodriguez said firmly. "What you built is stagnation disguised as peace. You kept everyone weak so they would need you. You controlled them through fear. We are building something based on strength and cooperation. If that threatens you, perhaps you should ask yourself why. Vexithera delivered an ultimatum. Disband the Free Worlds Alliance or face consequences. The consortium could not allow this disruption to continue. They gave Earth and its allies 30 days to comply. The transmission ended before anyone could respond. The Alliance met in emergency session. Some species were frightened. The consortium had millions of ships, thousands of protected worlds, resources beyond imagination. How could a handful of independent species stand against that? But the Kethmar representative said something that captured the mood. We fled because we were dying slowly under protection. If the consortium attacks us now, at least we will die free. The Alliance refused to disband. Instead, they prepared for war. Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, took command of the combined fleet. It was not a large force. 20 human ships, 15 Kethmar vessels, 12 from the Vorlax, and various craft from the other species. Against the consortium's might, it seemed pathetically small. But Morrison had learned something from fighting the Devourers. Superior numbers meant nothing if the enemy could not predict what you would do. The consortium fleet arrived at the edge of Alliance space exactly 30 days after the ultimatum. 300 ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything the Alliance had. They demanded surrender. Morrison responded by attacking. The Battle of New Terra lasted 6 hours. The Alliance fleet refused to fight the way the consortium expected. They did not form defensive lines or retreat to fortified positions. Instead, they scattered and reformed like a school of fish evading a predator. They used gravitational assists from planets to accelerate beyond safe limits. They employed drone swarms that moved too erratically for consortium targeting systems. They fought with creativity and desperation, using every trick and tactic they could imagine. The consortium had better ships and more firepower, but they had not fought a real war in centuries. Their tactics were outdated, designed for controlling pirates and raiders, not for fighting enemies who refused to follow galactic combat conventions. The Alliance ships took heavy losses, but they made every shot count. They targeted consortium command ships and communication relays. They disrupted formations and created chaos. In the end, the consortium fleet withdrew. They had won by the numbers, destroying twice as many Alliance ships as they lost. But they had failed to break the Alliance's will to resist. More importantly, they had shown vulnerability. Protected species across the galaxy watched the battle through whatever news networks they could access. They saw that the consortium could bleed. They saw that resistance was possible. The aftermath changed the galaxy forever. More species sought independence. Some joined the Free Worlds Alliance. Others simply refused to continue paying for protection. The consortium's grip weakened month by month. They tried to maintain control through diplomacy and economic pressure, but the momentum was against them. 10 years after Earth refused protection, President Rodriguez stood before the first Free Worlds Council. Representatives from 47 independent species filled the chamber. She was older now, her hair gray, but her eyes were still sharp. "We were offered protection," she said. "We asked one question, from who? The answer we found was not the one they wanted to give us. They wanted to protect us from the dangers of the galaxy, but the real danger was surrendering our freedom for the illusion of safety. We chose to face the universe on our own terms. That choice was hard. We lost people. We made mistakes. We struggled, but we remained free, and now we stand here together. 47 species who chose the same path. We are not protected. We are not safe, but we are free. And we are strong. The galaxy will never be the same." Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the newest Alliance flagship, looking out at a fleet that contained ships from dozens of worlds. Lisa Chang joined him, both of them watching the stars that now seemed less distant and less dangerous than they once did. "Did we do the right?"